a result of one man's decision. Ouch. When Elimelech moved his family to the land of Moab, he lost his entire family. He lost his life as well. But while they were there, they both ended up marrying Moabite women. Now, to us, that doesn't seem like a big deal, right? My New International Commentary has this to say about the marriages of the two sons. It says in Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 3, we read that marriages to the people of the land of the Canaanites and other foreigners were strictly prohibited. We also read in Deuteronomy chapter 23 and verse 3 that it doesn't prohibit marriages to Moabites and Ammonites. It only prohibits that the offspring of such unions from entering the assembly of the Lord until the 10th generation. Okay, do you get what's happening here? They've been there 10 years. 10 years and then they die. Continue on, he says, ironically, the marriages of Mahlon and Chilion lasted 10 years. Both marriages, however, are marked by infertility. They have no children. 10 years with no children. The implications are clear. As God withheld the rain and thus produced a famine, so he withheld fertility, hence no children. End of quote. What a costly decision to go to a foreign land, to move away from God and his people. It's cost him everything. Again, we see the effects of one man's decision and how it affects those of his family as well as those around him. The next principle that I believe that we can get from this is that we should trust in God regardless of our situations or the circumstances that we're going through. Wait patiently on God. We never know what is in store, but we should never move away from him, right? The point is we should never walk out on God or move away from him regardless of what we're going through. Once again, we notice in this text that God is the one that does not move. It is always the people that move away from God, right? And again, the point is we should always trust him in good times and even in bad times. Do not allow your circumstances or the tough times in your life to move you away from God. Now, notice another point in this verse. Elimelech is the one that moved his family. The point is God allows him to make his own decision whether right or wrong. He gives us the same choice today. We have the choice to make our own decisions, right? God has given us the freedom to make our own choices. Do we stay with God, work with him through our difficulties, or do we just walk out and leave him and let us do it on our own? Do we have that choice? We have that freedom. God never forces anyone to stay with him, to love him, to trust him, does he? All through Scripture, you never see God forcing anybody to stick with him, to love him, trust him. But as we discover, when we go without God in our lives, the consequences can be devastating. Right? In Deuteronomy chapter 30 and verses 19 to 20 we read, "This day I call heaven and earth as a witness against you that I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life." Here's your choice, right? You have a choice. You can either be blessed or you can be cursed. He says, now choose life so that you and your children may live. Again, Elimelech didn't do this, did he? And that you may love the Lord your God, listen to his voice, and hold fast to him. Pretty plain. Right? The next principle that we can learn from this text is choose to follow God and his instructions. I think we're better off staying there, right? In chapter 1, I'm going back to the book of Ruth now. In chapter 1, verses 8 through 18, we read about 3 grieving women who lost everything. J. Vernon McGee, a minister from the times past, calls this scene the meeting of the handkerchief brigade. Each one of these women has buried a husband and has a broken heart. Each one of these widows lives and is a testimony for us that we can learn from. In one of these women, there's a troubling example. In one, a tragic example. And finally, one, a thrilling example. These 3 widows illustrate 3 classes of people. As we study the lives of these 3 women, we gain an understanding of the kind of testimony they left behind and for us today. First, we see Naomi, a discouraged widow. I would think so after what she'd been through, right? I want you to notice her discouraging words, the ones that she says. Naomi is an example of a believer that is a hindrance to the work of God. In verse 6 and 7 we read, when she heard in Moab that the Lord had come to the aid of his people by providing food for them, Naomi and her daughters-in-law prepared to return home from there. With her 2 daughters-in-law, she left the place where she had been living and set out on the road that would take them back to the land of Judah. She's heard about God's graces coming back to the land of Judah now, and she intends to go back. She's at a point now, maybe of starving to death now, right? She has no way to provide for herself, no man in her life to provide for her. So she thinks, well, I'm going to go back where I can at least have enough food to live on.